You've probably heard of the government's so-called carbon pollution reduction scheme, but according to the government's own modelling, as the following graphs show, emissions in Australia don't actually begin to fall until 2033. According to the government, as soon as the CPRS comes in, emissions begin to fall, and as time goes on they fall faster and faster. Now this is exactly what the science tells us we need, but unfortunately, as the red lines show, in reality emissions aren't going to begin to fall until 2033. Put another way, we're not going to do anything to reduce emissions in Australia for another 25 years. So how do we combine these two stories? Well, what the black line shows is the number of permits that we'll be importing from other countries. The so-called carbon pollution reduction scheme doesn't actually drive down emissions in Australia. All we're planning to do, according to the Treasury's own modelling, is to import more and more permits from other countries each year. You might be wondering what's so special about 2033. Well, according to the Treasury modelling, that's when we invent clean coal. Now, the problem is that we haven't invented clean coal yet, and it's not obvious that we'll have invented it by 2033. The other problem is we have no idea, if we can invent it, how expensive it will be, and we also have no idea how long it will take to build all those clean coal power stations. Now the modelling assumes that we'll build them all in the 10 years between 2033 and 2043, but we're basing our whole strategy on tackling emissions not on the CPRS and not on a carbon price, but on the hope that somebody's going to invent clean coal and that it's going to be cheap and that it's going to be quick. So, what do we make of all this? Some people say that doing something is better than doing nothing, but what the Treasury modelling makes clear is that we are doing nothing. Emissions will not begin to fall until 2033, and the only reason they begin to fall in 2033 is because we're hoping to have invented clean coal by then. So, while it's no fun, the fact is, having waited decades for politicians to say they want to do something to tackle climate change, it looks like we might have to wait a bit longer until they're willing to do something that's actually going to begin to drive down emissions quickly, and that pays attention to the science.